you ever feel like there's some kind of invisible script running your life? One that seems to control your reactions, your confidence, and what you think is even possible for yourself? Well, today we're going to pull back that curtain. We're going to look at a science-backed method to not only find those limiting beliefs that are holding you back, but to actually consciously rewrite them for good. So let me ask you this, and really think about it for a second. When you consider your biggest goals, your relationships, your career, are the stories you tell yourself helping you or holding you back? Are they pushing you forward, or are they like an invisible anchor keeping you stuck? Because let me tell you, those stories, they have a huge impact on what you can actually achieve. This really boils it down to two completely different ways of looking at the world. On one side, you've got the skeptic who says, I'll believe it when I see it, right? They need proof before they'll even consider changing their mind. But the empowered person, they get a much deeper truth. I'll see it when I believe it. They understand that their belief system is the lens that shapes what they even notice in the first place, and ultimately what they create in their own reality. All right, so let's get into it. What exactly are these invisible scripts, and where in the world do they even come from? I love this metaphor. It's perfect. Imagine from the day you're born, you're handed a pair of eyeglasses by your family, your culture, all your experiences. Over the years, you get so used to them that you completely forget you're even wearing them. We just think, oh, the world is this color, when really, it's just the lens. We mistake our perception for the absolute truth. And here's the kicker. This is why those scripts are so powerful. We like to think our conscious mind, the part that's setting goals and making plans, is the one in charge. But get this, it's only about 5% of our total mental power. The real powerhouse, this kind of sleeping giant or unconscious architect, is the subconscious mind. And it's running 95% of the show, automatically firing off old programs whether we like it or not. Okay, but why? Why is it so darn hard to change these beliefs that are so deeply ingrained? Let's get into the science of why we get stuck, even when we know a pattern isn't working for us anymore. So here's the really amazing news. The whole foundation for this work is this incredible concept called neuroplasticity. For a long, long time, we thought our brains were basically fixed once we became adults. But now, we know that's not true at all. Your brain can change, it can adapt, it can literally rewire itself your entire life. What does that mean for you? It means real, lasting change is always on the table. Okay, you have to get this next part because it's so important. Your brain is basically an efficiency machine. And because of that, it doesn't actually care what's true or what's best for you. Nope, it just cares about what's familiar. That old negative belief you have, it's a well-worn, super efficient highway in your brain. So of course, it's going to take that path of least resistance every single time, unless you consciously build a new road. And to keep you on that familiar path, your brain has this superpower. It's called confirmation bias. Think of it like a search engine that's rigged to only find evidence for what you already believe. If you believe I'm not good at public speaking, your brain will hunt for every time you stammered, every person who looked away, and it will totally ignore all the times you did great. It's a self-protection mechanism for your old beliefs. Okay, before we get to the how-to, we've got to talk about a huge misconception. We all love the idea of that one big breakthrough, that instant transformation, but that's just not how the brain really works. You know those big aha moments? They feel great, right? They show you a new possibility. But as researcher Anna Giarsa says, they fade. One lightning bolt of insight isn't enough to overwrite years or even decades of programming. Real, lasting change, that happens in the small daily moments. It's the consistent practice of choosing the new thought, taking the new action over and over again that actually builds the new you. All right, so now for the good stuff. Let's get into the practical, step-by-step method for making that real, lasting change happen. And this isn't about just wishful thinking. This is a structured, science-based approach. So here it is, the whole 7-step process. You can see how it all flows together, right? First, you've got to identify the belief. Then you go deeper to access the subconscious and understand where it came from. Then you use logic to challenge that old thought, create a new, better one, and then, and this is key, you have to prove it with action, and then reinforce and repeat, 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 until that new belief becomes the new automatic thought. So how in the world do you talk to that sleeping giant, that 95% of your mind? Well, you've got to get past the security guard at the front door, right? And that's your conscious mind. The best way is to get into a relaxed, almost drowsy state, what's called a theta brainwave state.
This is that same open, receptive state you were in as a little kid. Things like guided meditation or breathwork are perfect for getting you there and opening the door to your subconscious programming.
Okay, step 4 is where we bring in some logic to dismantle that old faulty belief. This is a technique straight out of cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. You literally put the old belief on trial. Is it really 100% true that you lack the experience? What's the evidence against it? You're not pretending the old thought doesn't exist. You're just creating a more accurate and way more empowering alternative.
Now let's talk about affirmations, because most people get these wrong. Your subconscious mind will just reject a vague statement like, I am confident, if, deep down, you feel like an imposter. The secret is, you have to speak the language of the subconscious, and that language is feeling. So instead of that vague line, you connect it to a real memory. I know what it feels like to confidently lead a small project. Now your subconscious goes, oh yeah, I remember that feeling. It's real. Let's do more of that.
And finally, we get to the part that really makes it stick: reinforce and repeat. You've probably heard the number 21 days, right? Well, that's the ballpark. Neuroscience shows it takes consistent repetition to strengthen those new neural pathways. Think of it like carving a new path in a forest. The first few times it's tough, but the more you walk it, the clearer and easier it gets, until it becomes your new default highway.
So, when you put this all together, what's the bottom line? What's the big takeaway here? It's that you are not stuck with your old programming. You can literally become the architect of your own mind. This Tony Robbins quote just hits the nail on the head. So often, the biggest wall we're trying to get over isn't out there in the world. It's the story we have playing on a loop inside our own heads. And the most beautiful part of all this is that you are the author of that story.
So that's the framework. But now it's about you. I'll leave you with this last, most important question. I really want you to take this from just interesting information to an actual transformation. So, based on everything we've talked about, what is the one story, the one limiting belief that you're going to commit to rewiring first? The power to rewrite that story is literally in your hands. So go do it.